Bienvenidos a esta sesión que organizamos con mucho gusto como Capítulo México Percussive Arts Society. El día de hoy vamos a llevar a cabo una entrevista con el doctor Matthew Law. Eh, Primero que nada, pues me gustaría agradecer a Alejandra García Méndez, quien va a ser la que se va a encargar de la conducción de esta entrevista por su participación el día de hoy, así como también a David Cortés, quien es el que se está encargando de toda la producción de audio, eh, y a todos ustedes que se están integrando o que estarán escuchando esta entrevista posteriormente. Hoy en día nos encontramos el 12 de octubre, domingo, a las 11 horas, tiempo de la Ciudad de México, transmitiendo desde PYMPERL Studios. Matthew, dear Matthew, it's great seeing you again. We have met in PASIC a number of times, as well as in Mexico City, and the ongoing conversations that we have had about collaboration projects have been wonderful, and it's a honor for us on behalf of Capítulo México and Percussive Arts Society to have you here. So, antes de iniciar con la entrevista, pues me gustaría dar algunos breves comentarios con relación a la agenda y la logística. La mayoría de ustedes conocen Percussive Arts Society. Para quienes no, me gustaría enfatizar que la misión de la organización es inspirar, educar y dar soporte a percusionistas y bateristas en todo el mundo. Y la visión es ser el líder global en percusión y batería al proveer recursos y experiencias únicas e interactivas en educación de percusiones, investigación e interpretación. También me gustaría comentarles que este año, 2025, nos encontramos de gala, nos encontramos de fiesta, ya que se conmemora la 50 edición del Congreso PASIC, Percussive Arts Society International Convention, que es un evento que cambia vidas. Así es como lo creo, así es como personalmente me ocurrió, y que en este año va a contar con una serie muy interesante de presentaciones, conceptos y actividades especiales. Algunas de ellas, Matthew estará involucrado y ya sabremos más al respecto el día de hoy. Entonces, pues les invito a que si no han tenido oportunidad de conocer de Percussive Arts Society, que lo hagan a través de las redes sociales. Capítulo México Percussive Arts Society es el encargado de ser la representación de su membresía y el público para quienes residen en México. Y nos abocamos en armonía con la visión y misión de Percussive Arts Society a llevar a cabo programas que incluyen capacitación, difusión e integración en nuestro país, con el talento que tenemos aquí, así como también talento internacional. Estamos integrados por un comité ejecutivo, así como miembros de Percussive Arts Society y una red de voluntarios. En la lámina verán nuestras redes sociales, las cuales también les invito a que visiten. El día de hoy vamos a llevar a cabo la entrevista después de esta breve introducción y voy a hacer algunos comentarios acerca de la logística para quienes quieran desean hacer preguntas y respuestas. La entrevista va a estar centrada en Matthew, su carrera y desarrollo profesional, la relación que tiene con organizaciones como Percussive Arts Society y otras encargadas de la difusión del vibráfono, como es Vibraphone Project Incorporated, así como también sus proyectos Upstrike con una especial atención Identity. Habrá oportunidad para preguntas del público y algunos anuncios previos al cierre de la sesión que tendré la oportunidad de realizar. Esta sesión está siendo grabada y va a ser publicada posteriormente. Para quienes lo deseen, a través de las opciones de captions, van a poder tener captions traducidos a español, si así lo desean, o a otros idiomas también. De momento, el audio y video por parte de los asistentes va a estar desactivado. Y el chat lo estaremos utilizando para comunicación conmigo como anfitrión de la sesión. A través de este chat podrán enviar las preguntas y comentarios que tengan hacia Matthew. Y para comunicación entre asistentes durante esta sesión o posteriormente, los invitamos a que lo hagan a través de las redes sociales de nuestro capítulo con los hashtags Capítulo México Paz y Entrevista Matthew Law. Bien, con ello y sin mayor preámbulo, me gustaría darles las gracias a Alejandra y a Matthew. Thank you very much for your participation today. Welcome to this session and let's get started.
Gracias, gracias Marciano, gracias a todos los que nos ven esta mañana conectados y a los que verán esta entrevista diferida en un futuro. Gracias también a David Cortés. Como han escuchado ya, estaremos disfrutando una grata conversación con Dr. Matthew Law en esta visita que hace a México. Nos platicaba que estuvo en 2003 y 2023 y está de nuevo con nosotros. Qué mejor que iniciar conociendo a profundidad quién es Dr. Matthew Law, además de que él nos cuente a lo largo de esta charla. Él es músico, tejedor, políglota y yogi, percusionista originario de Hong Kong, educado en música clásica con un giro caprichoso. Interpreta un repertorio muy variado con la misión de comunicar a la audiencia el sentido y esencia de la música. Sus arreglos van desde la música de Bach hasta obras vanguardistas de compositores como Giannis Xenakis y Franco Donatoni. También Matthew se dedica a fomentar y sobre todo a abrazar la individualidad de cada persona a través de la enseñanza. Le gusta mucho defender la música de compositores vivos de esta época, promoviendo así un acercamiento al público en general a través de sus distintas interpretaciones, tanto en la accesibilidad, el enfoque original y sobre todo en su estilo. Es asiático, queer, Dr. Lau está narrando y combatiendo esas viejas narrativas, trabajando para cambiar el camino convencionalmente establecido. También es importante mencionar que es director y cofundador del grupo de percusión de Abstract Project, establecido también en Hong Kong, miembro del dueto Fisher-Lau. Se dedica de manera internacional a la docencia y a interpretarlo musicalmente. Ha impartido clases, conciertos, festivales, concursos en distintos países como Estados Unidos, Argentina, México, Perú, Taiwán, España, Australia y Rusia. No se queda quieto, como lo ven. Obtuvo su doctorado en percusión por la Universidad Stony Brook, bajo la cátedra del percusionista Eduardo Leandro. Además, fue ganador de la prestigiosa beca Lab Grant de la Foundation Boston, beneficiario de otros apoyos y becas del Consulado de Hong Kong, del cual recibió el premio del Nuevo Artista. Además, es patrocinado por Marimba One, Black Swan Percussion, Rustic Percussion y Elite Mallets. Es miembro vigente del Percussive Arts Society Boards of Advisor, miembro del Keyboard Committee, autor de artículos en Percussive Notes, artista, facilitador de talleres y moderador de paneles en múltiples ediciones de Percussive Arts Society International Convention. ¿Qué mejor ahora que recibir a Matthew Law, Dr. Matthew Law? Ya nos contará, con toda esta trayectoria, todos estos tópicos que viene a compartirnos esta mañana. Welcome to Mexico, Matthew.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything. I'm good.
It's a pleasure to meet you and share this conversation with you to learn more about your career, your projects, your contribution, and your teaching. Please tell us about what is the purpose of this visit to Mexico?
This purpose of this trip is pure vacation.
Yeah.
I me and my husband, his name is also Matthew.
Okay.
We come to Mexico a lot. Especially him, he come to Mexico a lot more than I do. But just so happened, one of our favorite Mexican singer, Maria Jose, of the band Caba,
Yeah.
she's singing in the Auditorio Nacional this Saturday, and a couple of shows too. She's doing a tour, and then we were like, yes, we should take a vacation. We should go see her. We saw her in Monterrey. It was great. We wanted to do it again, so we sort of very last minute formed this vacation together.
And you are going to play on this week?
Yes, I am doing a smaller, more casual masterclass playing session in UNAM,
Yeah.
not far from here, with Professor Alfredo Bringas. It's going to be at noon, I believe. But that's and this interview. Thank you so much for your invitation, Marciano, and everything. This is great.
This gonna be on 15?
15th, yes.
On Wednesday.
Wednesday,
no?
yes.
Wednesday 15 en la Facultad de Música de la UNAM. What inspiration did you receive from your earliest music professors in childhood, high school, and college?
To be honest, not that much. I started playing piano when I was 6.
Okay.
And when I was 9, the elementary school had a band program, a wind ensemble program. And I wanted to pick another instrument to play. Everybody wanted to do flute and clarinet because they're up front, but it was already full. So the teacher told my mom that you can either pick percussion or tuba, which is a huge brass. And I'm just this tiny, skinny Asian kid. And my mom said, "Oh, let's pick the easy one. Just buy a pair of sticks." But I'm still buying things right now. It's a never-ending collection of instruments for percussionists, but not much inspiration. My parents are in business; they're not artists. There aren't any artists in my family, but they've been super supportive of whatever I do. So when I decided I wanted to get into music professionally, since high school, I set a goal. I want to get into music school. I want to pursue music. They were just like, okay, great. Let me know how we can support you. And it was there on like that. I was exploring different routes. I reached out to different teachers and things kept changing, that kind of thing. So at an earlier childhood, not so much inspiration.
And why was it uncommon to have a drum set, first instrument when you were young?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So I moved to the United States when I was 20 for my master's, and I stay on. And I learned that most people in the US and Canada and Australia, English-speaking country, they have drum sets when they first play. Even in Peru, in Colombia, in Argentina, they have, cajon, they have like whatever they have, the rhythm section, because you don't really need to learn how to read notes. You can just improvise on rhythm. But in Asia, Hong Kong specifically, I think Taiwan is very similar. Japan is almost half and half, but we all learn melodic instruments first. So piano, violin, flute, they're all very popular. I was born in 87, so give it away. You know my age now?
Very young.
I'm very young. I just had a birthday 2.5 weeks ago. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like close to 40 now. But that was the thing back growing up in the 90s. Piano, violin, that's the way to go. Drum set, even now, you can take drum set lessons, but it's almost like a extra fun thing. You take piano, maybe you take violin, and then maybe you want to take some rhythm things. That's like a third thing. So it's not popular at all.
Okay. Thank you. Which were your sources of appreciation of the multiple musical genres you enjoy and you have influence to country, disco, also Spanish pop? I don't know. What's your favorite genre?
This is interesting. My favorite genre is Cantonese pop. I'll tell you why. Because, like I said, as a child growing up in the 90s, if you Google Chinese pop songs, you'll find Canto pop and Mando pop, Cantonese pop and Mandarin pop. I speak Cantonese. It's a different language than Mandarin. It's not intelligible. It's
Okay.
like Spanish and maybe Italian to some extent, but it's not mutually intelligible. But in the 90s, when you look at Chinese music and movie, Cantonese, particularly from Hong Kong, that's our one of
Where
our
you're from.
de facto official language alongside with English, that dominate the Chinese popular media scene. Even now, people who speak Mandarin will listen to Cantonese pop. So growing up, I would listen to a lot of those, right? A lot of diva, a lot of reinas, of course. Um, I'm gay, openly gay, and of course, we like the reinas. You know, every language have their own reinas, right? There's Celine Dion, there's Whitney, there's Cher, and him. You know, in Spanish, there's so much like
Yeah.
Talia, Paulina Rubio, Amanda Miguel, Judy, Dulce,
Yuri.
everything, right? So fast forward to 2015, my husband, then boyfriend, he's a researcher. He's a public health researcher. He does a lot of work in South America. His publications in Spanish. He works a lot with the whole Spanish-speaking world. And he introduced to me the whole Spanish-speaking world's culture. And then I started hearing these songs that we actually had a Cantonese version back in the 90s. For
Okay.
example, there's a really famous pop song by Priscilla Chan called what is it called? I forgot. But the original song is La Loca
Okay.
by Maria Conchita Alonso.
Yeah.
The exact same key, exact same thing. There's a lot of cover, and it's the same vibe. It's love, it's power ballads. It's like ripping your heart.
Liberty.
Yeah, it's like that. That's why I like Marios. It's like very that. And I love that. But I also grew up listening to classical music. I play a lot of timpani. That was my earlier first career aspiration. So, you know, classical music and pop side really intersect with me and make me who I am. And Spanish super, I like Fangoria, I like Alaska and Diorama. There was a lot of really cool bands, like, you know, in Spain, in Argentina, that I really like. You know,
That's your essence.
yeah, exactly. Why can I listen to Gilda from Argentina playing like cumbia and also play very difficult, tricky music? That's just make me who I am.
Thank you. I would like to know what's your point of view on the ease of securing funds for creative projects in different regions of the world?
Funds.
Funds.
I think in general, the larger direction right now, funding for art are being cut first. It's very sad. Certain government don't see a priority to set funding for art first, like public health, science, you know, there's a list. But there is funding. You just need to fight harder. I finished my doctorate in 2017. And from that onwards, I've been looking for different grants. You know, I've got a lot of rejections, tons of rejections, but also a lot of really good grants that kept me going. You just need to know where to look. Sometimes a lot of students come back to me. Let's say I tour a lot in Latin America.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you know, our countries are not like Canada or the US or where you're from in Asia. I said, yeah, that's true. But if you know where to look at, there are actually a lot of fun, even in Mexico. You know, some of my friends here, one of the a great percussionist who live in Guanajuato, Ivan Manzanilla, he's got government support for years, and there's projects and stuff. And there is a grant council actually in New York, in the New York, New Jersey region called Mid-Atlantic Council for the Art. So each region in the US has their own grant council. So for that region, it's called Mid-Atlantic. Where I live in Boston, Massachusetts, that 5 states is called New England. So we have the Massachusetts Council for the Art, New England Council for the Art. But they have a program specifically for Hispanic and Lusophone Portuguese speaker called Ibermusica. Like Iberia, you know, Ibermusica. It's for project, it's for festival, it's for exchange. It's both ways. So they're called the convocatoria, right?
Yeah.
It's in both Spanish and Portuguese. Let's say if you are in a band, or if one of my friends was running a festival in Lima, he applied for that fund. The fund comes from the U.S. government through different channels to Peru, to where you live, and it's being diffused for this specific list of countries that are eligible. So think of all of the Spanish-speaking countries and the handful of Portuguese-speaking countries. So, Timor-Leste, Portugal, Brazil, those.
The support on public and private
Mhm.
support, yeah?
Private, especially now, there are a lot more funding from the private sector because where I live in the States now, there's a lot happening in the States. A lot of things being cut. I am fortunate to be living in a region that is very proactive on a lot of issues, on immigration, on queer, on identity, on funding for the arts and everything.
Understand.
Massachusetts and New England in general, and our funding is still being intact. It's still actually going very strong, and a lot of the private sector stepped up to amp up their funding opportunities because some other regions, maybe their funding's being cut from the government.
Yeah.
So the private sector stepped in. So there have been more that I've seen in the past 8 months.
Okay. And what measures can be taken to increase access to funds for creative projects where limited?
I think crowdsourcing and any sort of fundraising has been on the rise. A lot of people do GoFundMe. It's a platform where you can just, hey, I want to get an instrument for a recording project. Any little bits help, like $2, $15. I've had friends who funded their entire recording project that way. Social media helps a whole lot. Social media helped my career a lot. I'm not very savvy like the very young generation now, but it's different. It's a platform. But I think crowdsourcing is a good way. A lot of my times, this is even before COVID actually. Commissioning a new piece from a composer, we often raise money through a consortium.
Yeah.
So this way, everybody gets something out of it. Instead of fishing out of your pocket $5,000 for a piece, everybody can pay somewhere between like 50 to 100, depending on your level, as in students and professional and groups. And you can be a part of a community where, hey, my name is on that consortium. I'm on this small legacy that whoever's creating. So I think that's one very good resource, but that does take time. So I think the earlier you get onto, let's say, getting a professional website done, even if you're a student, get a website on, have some kind of social media presence, I think that's way easier than just like, okay, I have a pick. I now have this project I wanted to do. I'm just going to raise $4,000.
Yeah.
It's very hard to just start from zero. Start early. I think you'd be surprised.
And some artists have to work, no, for it. Talking about sponsorships, I would like to what is your view of the artist-sponsor relation first?
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
Like you must get an artist sponsorship or an endorsement to be a successful, I'm putting in quotes because success are defined in so many different ways.
Subjective.
Right. It's so subjective. What is success? How do you define success? It could be very intangible or it could be very tangible with key quantifiable factors, right? I think it would help you if you really work with the right sponsors. I'm very lucky that right out of grad school, I was just like, you know what? My teacher, Eduardo Leandro, he's Brazilian. He's lived in Europe and been in the States for 20-some years. He was just like, you never know. Have faith, and I can see that you can tour. Maybe you could try tour, and maybe But I'm just fresh out of grad school. Who's gonna take a chance on me? I didn't win any competition. I'm not famous. I was just a freshly graduated a doctorate student. There's a lot of doctorate graduate in the U.S. But I think it's the right timing. All of the sponsors initially I worked with Marimba One and with Black Swan Percussion, I had owned their instruments prior as students, and I really liked their stuff. I believe in their stuff. And they said yes. So I feel like that was a good match. Some colleagues of mine would work with sponsor because they are a quote unquote a big name.
Yeah.
Even though they don't believe in their sound because it's a name. So they are, it's vulnerable, it's naked. This is the truth. I'm not gonna lie. But a lot of people do that because they don't really truly believe in their sound. Like they may be like 70% convinced. Again, there's a spectrum on what you wanted to achieve, but personally, I have such close sponsors relationship. You know, Ron and Jeff from Marimba One, you know, Tim Church from Black Hole Percussion. They're thinking about artists first. I have, you know, one of the things that I've developed with Black Swan Percussion was these like sound plates that it was started off as just like a fun thing because at PASIC 2022, I need some scrap metal pieces for my group who was playing, and then they come up with the shape of my head
Okay.
and the sound plate. It's like for fun. I'm not sure why. And then I tell them, actually, you might want to release this product because a lot of people come back to me saying, "Can I buy this?" There's a niche for it, and they took a chance. And 2 years in development, it's being released last PASIC, and it's round and it's square. And they work with other artists to constantly modify their product, and they listen to us. So I think that's a really good artist relationship, not
Yeah.
just so much for the brand and the name. But like I said, how to define success is different. So everybody have different way of thinking depending on where in your career. I understand if you're a student, if a sponsor approached you, that might be very enticing. It's like, oh wow, this is maybe
Yeah.
something I should take on, but think about it.
Please. Are there any new products built for you by your sponsors?
Yeah, so those awesome sound plates, I'm still using those sound plates.
Okay.
You can go into my Instagram. I just used the last one in Portugal on the new piece. The newest are my mallets. My signature mallets from Encore Solier's Percussion from Texas. I had another signature mallet from a company by a Spaniard owner. His name is Iñaki Sebastian.
Okay.
We're still very good friends. He's sort of semi-retired now. When I moved back to the US in 2022, he actually, I had my old set. I was using his old mallets for my old signature set from him from Spain for 2 years until 2024. Actually, last year, around April, I told him, hey, you know, now that I am more established and my gigs are mostly in the US, I think I should look for maybe a mallet company in the US that could give me more support, because he told me before it's really hard for him to get me support from Spain. It's just it's a lot of difficulty with shipping and like the dealer and everybody. And he gave me his blessing. We're still really good friends. Like I said, I approached to a couple of companies, and like I said before with the relationship, Encore Mallets and Solier's Percussion, they're two different brands, but they are merged into one brand. So it's Solier Percussion, Encore Mallet, but they're both
Okay.
this master mallet picker called Bruce Soliers. So Soliers Percussion. Yeah, I reached out to them, and they actually know my work. Bruce said to me, "Yeah, I know. I noticed your work for a couple of years. I think it's very interesting." And I'm like, "But the vibraphone mallets I have in mind are nowhere to be found in the market, and it's very specific." So we're like, "Okay, let's develop something." So it took.
It's a handcraft.
Yeah, it's handcraft. There was a lot of back and forth. It's very difficult to put the sound description in words. Like, I'm pretty good with words, but it's so hard to describe a sound. You know, it's just fluffy. And I'm like, no, it's not. But it's like kind of like, but I also want it to be like this. So it's not soft. No, it's not too soft. It's like a dark pink.
It's like blue.
It's like, yeah, it's like a spectrum of color. I see colors a lot. So there's a lot of back and forth. And also, he's a genius in making mallets. He gave me, I believe, this middle model, nothing has changed. This was like when he sent me the test, I'm like, this is it. The yarn is different because I love pink. I'm also a knitter, so I have a very specific yarn I wanted to use.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the newest, and then we released the 3 models as a soft preview in the last PASIC, and it hit the stores this March 2025. So you can go on to, and they have a really large network. You can find it on Steve Wise in the US, and everybody in the world buy from Steve Wise. I bought from Steve Wise when I was 14 with a fax machine. I think you remember fax machine. I know. They have a dealer in the UK that shipped from to all the Europe continent, also in the world. There's a dealer in Japan. There's a dealer actually in Mexico, in Monterrey, Mike Percussion.
Okay.
I've talked to him on Instagram, and he has more mallets. Some of my students in Monterrey shot me a picture. I was like, yay! Yeah, so this is the newest product. There's 3 models. They started out as vibraphone mallets, but because the sound and the weight that I play and the length of the mallet is a little different than most vibe mallet, it sounds really nice on marimba. And I use rattan, the handle rattan on vibraphone, but I use birch, which is wood, on marimba. So Bruce and I decided to release both birch and rattan, and these are both hybrid for marimba and vibraphone.
Oh, so interesting. About Percussive Art Society and Vibraphone Projects Incorporated, I ask you, how did you become involved first with Percussive Art Society?
With Percussive Art Society of PAS, I started on the keyboard committee.
Okay.
There are, I don't even know how many committees are there, like 30? You know? 15. Okay, yeah, I should know better. Sorry, Joshua. 15 committees that do symphonic, health and wellness, electronic technology, keyboard, which is where I am in percussion ensemble, education, you name it. Each of us are charged with judging our own categories, PASIC, the international conventions proposal, artist proposal. So, if you propose to play a percussion ensemble concert, it will go to the percussion ensemble's committee members.
Okay.
If you apply for marimba, it will come to us as keyboard committee members. I started during COVID years because I see a lot of unfair conversation and not super equitable programming at that time. So I was like, let me take a chance on this. So I took a shot. And I got selected. And this is my last year. After this PASIC, I'm being rotated out. 6 years terms. We have 6 years term. 2 years ago, I got onto the board of advisor role. I campaigned myself sort of as a continuation of what I see as injustice. I wanted to, address all these inequity, particularly to Asian percussions and in an extension of that, queer percussionist. Because percussion world in the U.S. and in the world, because this is the largest governing percussion board of this kind in the world. Everybody take a look at what PAS is doing and what pieces, who is on the selected artist list is very coveted to get on. Very difficult to get on. I got rejected so many times. And it's very white male centric. And I have dealt with that, a lot of aggression when I was in grad school. I did not really realize that was an aggression until very later in my life, like 4 years ago, very late in my adulthood. So, I was talking to the CEO, Joshua Simons, for this, and then they are really wanting to change to be a more equitable organization. And I got into the BOA, the advisor role, and then we've been changing things. I told him a couple of key things. We need a judging rubric. How we judge applications for the artist proposal need to be super fair and needs to be transparent even within our committee members. And B, it cannot be cliquey. It cannot be like an old boys club. Like you hear the same thing being played over and over and over again. There are so many great artists that we were also charged to encourage artists to apply, but some of them come back to me in my tour saying, I was like, hey, you should apply for PASIC. And they were like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm like the right fit because I don't play those pieces or I don't fit into that world. I'm not white enough. But I'm like, this shouldn't be it shouldn't be this way. This is actually one of the thing that sparked the whole thing about, it should be way more inclusive than just hiring a couple of like Latinas or like a woman percussionist here. It should be representing from all spectrum of percussion. It's not just one way of it. In keyboard, I cannot speak for everybody else. For keyboard, it's always been very one-notey. One sound, certain artists play certain things. It's always on the marimba. Certain people tell me on my vibraphone things that I don't play jazz at all. But because vibraphone has such a long history with jazz, a lot of jazz vibraphonists said to me in person, in PASIC, saying, "Oh, what you're doing really cool. But the new music stuff," that's what they said. "The new music stuff is never going to get on PASIC because it's not jazz on vibraphone." And I'm like,
purists.
No, elitist.
Okay.
Elitist. And it's like, that's not fair. How can you negate the fact that this aesthetic is not legitimate? So I think it's working slowly. It's changing slowly. Last year, I was asked by one of the committee, the Diversity Alliance head, Dr. Elizabeth de la Mater, to chair a panel discussion with 4 other Asian percussionists from Australia, Canada, the UK, and myself, and Japanese American drummer for Whitney Houston, actually. Very cool. About East Asian percussionists, racism and aggression that we faced in the world. And people were like so shocked to hear our experiences. And they were like, yeah, this is something that we deal with from someone who's like 25 years old to like 55 years old. Different part of their life, we have always been dealing with this. It's just not being raised. So long story short, I think the changes are coming. It has been made. There's more room to grow, of course, but it's an ongoing collective process. With VPI, what can I say? Vibraphone lovers, they get together. The president, Dr. Brian Grazer.
Right.
Actually, I don't know him before. One of my very good friends, Gloria Yahilevsky, she's American, but she lives in the UK now. She does amazing stuff. She looped me into VPI. She was like, you should maybe get into it. So we started in COVID years again, because everybody is at home. Brian said, we are going to plan for a live event featuring all things vibraphone. I'm like, yeah, sign me up.
When?
Excellent. But the COVID code out, it only happened like this past May 2025. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, it happened like 5 years later. But yeah, vibraphone lovers, we get together. I am a board member, and I am the committee members. I'm the committee for competition and festival. Excuse me. With 2 other colleagues of mine, Dr. Matthew Geiger and Joey Van Hassel. We set up the competition rules and repertoire and all of that. And we just had our first competition and mini festival this past May.
Okay. Thank you for this answer. What is your view of the current state, challenges, opportunities, and future direction of PAS?
I don't know. Everybody have biases. I have one bias, of course. It's art is subjective, but I think if you take a look at like who's been on the BOA and then like an extension later on the board of the board members and then the executive committee, I think it's changing really. There are younger, more current voices in different committees contributing to programming for PASIC. So I don't know. It's a collective effort. I think it's a big puzzle. There's a lot of moving pieces. Everybody's contributing in their ways.
And what do you think of the role chapters having PAS already?
I think the chapters are doing great things around the country, especially in the US, because it's sort of built for, in suburbs with a lot of schools. The chapters are bringing, other artists like myself, like my colleagues, to preach what we are preaching, but in a more local level. So into like high school and middle school, and they start them young. So I think that's a really good opportunity. With Marciano, later this month, I'm going to Colombia. I'm going down to Bucaramanga. The chapter president there, John Ciro, he's also doing fantastic things for the Colombian students. He's bringing the art form of what he's seen in the US down to Colombia. So it's a different way of spreading the aesthetic, but in a more local level internationally.
Okay. And what impact has PASIC had in your professional career? How have you contributed to PASIC?
I've played a couple of smaller things in PASIC. In the new music research focused a concert with my dual partner, Abby Fisher. Hi, Abby. Um, this year is my first time doing a solo showcase. So I'm kind of nervous about that. Um, I think the couple of years that I've been when I was a student and when I was back in Hong Kong after graduating, I was sort of very anti-PASIC as people in contemporary music because, like I said, you always hear these pieces and this sound of PASIC, which I don't like that term. But I was like, hey, it's being a 30-something-year-old, a 30, I was 30 at that point. Instead of being angry about it, I should try to maybe like insert my little voice about it, and maybe that little voice can get into the organization and change something. And I think it's sort of working in various form. Inspire me in a way that I do see a lot of students coming to whatever they're going to, like the panel or just meeting me in the booth talking about. A lot of them was like, hey, I've seen your things on social media. I want to take a look at your hair. I don't have it right now, but they were like, can I touch your hair? I'm like, no, you can touch my hair. It's like, yeah, they were like, thank you so much for being so vocal about the art form and everything. I think that's the one key takeaway for PASIC is the collectively individual artists doing our thing in our own world, coming together, providing a platform for students and people who inspire to have these conversations.
That join together.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what is exciting about the 50th edition of PASIC in 2025?
I am very excited to see a lot of my friends because a lot of the people who are coming back to PASIC this year did not go to PASIC for many years. So a lot of my friends I haven't seen in a long time. The Friday evening concert, Les Percussions de Strasbourg from France, super excited. They are they're the oldest percussion group in the world. Push so many envelope on all of the repertoire that we're playing right now, and this is one of the key things I think we need. It's like it's not just about percussion in Americas, just
Yeah.
it's much more than that. Yeah, there are groups coming in and out internationally, but I think for Percussion de Strasbourg, Friday night evening, it's like definitely a highlight.
Thank you. And when and how did you become involved with Vibraphone Project Incorporated?
I don't actually remember the years. I would say COVID years are kind of
Like,
strange. So I was like maybe 2020.
okay.
Yeah.
Pandemic.
Pandemic, yeah.
days.
COVID times. So
Yeah.
around that time, yeah.
Okay. And do you know what is BPI planning now to the centenary?
Yes. So Brian and I were talking about future things. We are going to do a similar festival and competition in 2027. So not next year, the year after. We're still scouting for locations, but it's going to be a bigger event than the one that we had this year.
Okay. And talking about Abstract, your project's identity, how did you start playing the vibraphone considering your early education was focused on piano and marimba?
Vibraphone came to me during my second year of my DMAs. I went to Stony Brook University with Eduardo. He plays many, many, many things, and I play a lot of marimba, like you said. As a piano kid, like in being Asian, I was just always a keyboard player that everybody think I should just play keyboard, which is fair because I do play a little keyboard. But there were some challenges and some limitations. So Eduardo, I remember he was like, "Oh, and we have to play 6 recitals in my doctorate program. It's a lot." So we do play a lot of repertoire. I think during my third recital, he was like, "Okay, now you've played a lot of different repertoire. Maybe you should look into vibraphone. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do." So he was the first one to put that seed in my head. And then the more research I do on this subject matter, I discover a lot more things and a lot more colors, tone colors thing that I can do. So I dig deeper and deeper. Two of the pieces that I've been touring with Identity, the program Identity, are directly from that DMA recital, and I'm still doing those pieces because those pieces are the pieces that made me who I am. The Steve Reich transcription that I did on vibraphone, originally for flute, and a Spanish composer solo called Kakuro Secreto by Jose Manuel Lopez Lopez. I still do it, and this is just who I am.
And after that, with Leandro's support, you were in love with vibraphone.
Yeah, he would just say, these are the directions. You can just go there. And then I meet more people, and then it's like the network of vibraphonists just sort of came to me, and then we talked and that kind of thing. It's nice.
It's a treasure. What did you recommend to students or musicians who are still defining their voice and identity?
Don't be afraid to be who you are. You will take lessons with your teachers. Teachers, respect them because they have their experience. Everybody has different background. Respect what they tell you, I would say. But you need to ask yourself if what they're telling you are applicable to you. You can play Bach for 15 different teachers. They will have 15 different versions, right? If your teacher doesn't necessarily telling you the things that you wanted to hear, it might be a good thing. You want to ask yourself, be critical about this. But in another way, you can find other teachers in your other degrees, find your community. When you go for, let's say, a master's, you can find teachers in master program that resonate with you. If you wanted to do something about body percussion, there are a group of teachers that are sort of renowned for doing stuff like that. Find your own community, and then in a way, you will discover you're not alone. People somewhere in the world is doing similar things and probably just the same shoes in the same boat, right? So embrace yourself, embrace you are. Don't censor yourself. Don't shut yourself up. Don't censor yourself.
And choose your own voice.
Choose your own voice. Don't censor yourself. It might be a hard road. I mean, art is hard. It's never instant gratification. It's a marathon. Like I said,
Yeah.
I got so much rejection from grants about certain things, and then I realized that now, of course I get rejected because timing wasn't right. I wasn't established enough yet. So you need to do smaller step to get to the medium step, to get to the bigger step.
Yeah.
But stay true to who you are. Don't lose your own integrity, because same thing with endorsement, like you said, right? Don't lose your integrity, your voice, and being who you are.
Thank you. What strategies do you recommend to reaching agreement with composers for personal interpretation approaches? Intentions versus personality?
What's the first part of the question?
What strategies do you recommend to reaching your own agreement?
Find someone you like. Again, don't go for someone famous. I mean, don't go for someone because of they're famous. They could be very famous, but they might not be compatible with you. Some of my most closest composer relationship are people that I like. I like their work. I like their personality. I've hung out with them, and we really click. That's the most important, and then everything else comes easily.
Indeed. Can you please share with what your Identity project is about?
So Identity is a collection of pieces that I've been playing since in grad school that made up of who I am. The new music side, the different type of new music side, American minimalist to Spanish spectralist, very different, to Spanish disco side. I love Talia. Who doesn't like Talia? I like Paulina Rubio. Who doesn't like that? I like Fangoria. But I also like vibraphone. Can we do this together? Yeah. So that's how I commissioned my buddy Von Hansen. He's actually coming to Mexico soonish. I need to talk to Marciano about that. But it's a collection of pieces. Half of them is basic standard vibraphone repertoire. Half of them is my own commission. And is sort of unapologetically saying hey, this is just who I am. I'm not going to cater to the audience need. That's one thing about not sacrificing your own artistic integrity. It changes. There are a couple pieces that change around, but it's just essentially who I am, and it's my identity.
Indeed. Can you watch some videos
Yeah, let's
from
play
Identity?
let's play Vaughn's piece. Let's play Grolix. This is a disco piece.
Okay. Bueno, tú nos dices, si no vamos a una pregunta más. How did your life and professional experience converge to the inception of Identity Project?
I feel like identity has always been in me, but it wasn't until 2022-ish. I moved back to the US 2022,
Okay.
abruptly from Hong Kong. And it's not like, okay, 2022, I have identity in my head. Boom. It's not like that. It's like there's so many things. Reason why we moved back from Hong Kong is because of the situation there. And I felt like I have to be even stronger about who I am as a Hong Kong artist abroad. And then it just sort of clicked with me. I want to change the people who talk about pieces and images of who Asians are, who all that. Also, the form of the concert, I forgot to say, it's a 60 minutes, hour-long program with custom visuals and electronics nonstop. So it's like going to a show in Vegas, or there's no bowing between. It changes the expectations and what the concert format of like very classical recital is. So in a more micro level, the pieces, and on a macro level, it's like the entire form of the concert. So it just sort of come together. I remember trying to find a title for this project. I couldn't, I don't know what it was, and then it just clicked with me in one of the plane ride. I'm like, oh, identity. This is it. Great, excellent. So this is the disco piece that I remember. I show Vaughn the music video of 3 different songs from the Spanish band Fangoria.
Yeah.
Before it was Alaska, right? These awesome, like crazy, highly saturated visuals reminds me of my old clubbing days in New York. I used to live in New York, and like the just the gay club scene is just very that, like just that. And I'm like, I want that, and I want very difficult, like challenging things to play with live electronics. So let's listen.
And produce with the vibraphone.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Excellent. Thank you. What are the challenges associated with democratizing classic contemporary music?
Programming is one. One thing that sometimes the new music, when I was in school, the new music community would tell me you have to program all these one type of contemporary music in the same aesthetic. For me as a player, even though I love these pieces, it's too much to listen for. Your brain and your ears get fatigued, get tired easily. So I always, it's my personality to be fun. I'm very serious in many things, but I'm also a very fun person. So why can the word democratizing is to make it accessible and popular. Why can I play something so different, very academic, and very atonal, but in a fun way that maybe my mom, my aunts, or people who don't know music would like tickle something inside them. Like I remember like one of the pieces I was playing, there's a comical moment. People should be laughing, and they laughed. And my mom was like, I was like, Mom, did you laugh? She was like, yeah, I did. I'm like, yes, you get it. Good. There's a lot of things to be done than just program all of these pieces in one go into a single sort of purest form of concert.
Yeah.
And of course, with like electronic, with visuals, with the way you play, it helps a lot. But I think it comes down to programming.
Casi estamos llegando al final, pero tell us about other educational opportunities you will be offering in the future on 2026.
Yeah, very exciting. On the note of democratizing, making contemporary classical vibraphone more accessible on how to get into playing these pieces, because we are very much in tune with pop music when we grow up. When we go to classical music school, we learn about tonal music, Bach music, Mozart music, and then it's the base form of any pop music, right? The chords, 1-4-5 chord. A lot of students and even educators don't know where to start. So I am doing my first edition of Matthew Lau's, what is it called? Matthew Lau Vibraphone Intensive. Yes. It's a 3 days intensive in Boston, Massachusetts. It's going to be the last weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next May 2026. You can find our Instagram and my account too. We are revealing our faculty members. It will be filled with 1 faculty concerts and 2 participant concerts at the end of each day. We will have intensive, should be intensive, for lack of a better word. There are classes, master classes, clinic from the faculty, but also specific repertoire class that we debunk, deepen, democratize on one particular piece. Everybody will learn maybe a couple lines. So it's a very safe space. There is no ego. You can just play a couple of lines. You don't have to worry about, wrong notes, right notes. We're here to learn. And because, like I said, I'm living in one of the regions that the funding is still pretty nice. This is sponsored partially by our mayor Michelle Wu's fund for opportunity. So because of that fund, of that grant, I am able to significantly lower the tuition of summer intensive to make it more accessible. A lot of summer intensive are very expensive now, $2,000 US dollars. That's a lot of pesos, right? I'm not going to tell you how much yet, but I can make it for 3 days under $200.
That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be very accessible because I don't think it should be, people cannot afford something like that, should be deprived of a chance to learn from world-class faculty. I have a faculty member flying in from the Netherlands, one who lives in New York, but she's from Argentina, and one very well-respected professor, an older professor who does a lot with contemporary new music, who also lives in Massachusetts. I can't tell your names yet because I am revealing on Instagram. So follow for more.
On Instagram, Facebook, and your
the channel.
www.matthewlaumusic.com.
Yep.
Do you have any upcoming events that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, just my standard touring, going to Colombia at the end of this month, PASIC for my big show. Next year, I'm starting a new duo project with the professor of voice in the University of Westchester in Pennsylvania. He's originally from Hong Kong, and he's also queer as well. He's a little older. We're doing a contemporary percussion and Cantonese art song duo, like art song as in Schubert, Schumann, but not in German, in Cantonese. And a couple of projects with my dear abstract member back in Hong Kong. Next year, my Vibraphone Intensive, and I am co-organizing the first marimba competition in Buenos Aires in Argentina.
On what month?
I think it's going to be in September/October.
Let it go.
Yeah, we're still in the talking, but yeah, a lot of exciting things coming.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Pues ha sido un placer platicar contigo. Si quieren compartirnos sus preguntas de todo esto que nos ha participado, no solo desde su formación, sus opiniones en cuestión de cómo se democratiza realmente la participación de los vibrafonistas, lo que ha tenido él tanto en el capítulo de Percussive Art Society. Y bueno, vamos a ver si hay algunas preguntas por ahí pendientes. Excelente. Recuerden que va a estar presentándose este miércoles en la Facultad de Música de la UNAM. Any question that I have for you is about yoga. I
Oh,
love
yes.
yoga. So you have recommend any yoga poses for vibraphonists?
Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Actually, I presented, it's in my masterclass rotation. I presented a class in PASIC 2022.
Okay.
It's targeted stretching for percussionists using yoga alignment knowledge. I practice a form of yoga from Iyengar yoga.
Iyengar.
Iyengar, yeah. So it's very about props and alignment and how do you do posterior tilting of the tailbone, to do certain things. I do a lot of back bends.
Okay.
I am very flexible. I can do very deep back bend. And I find a lot of those targeted stretching for back bends actually help me tremendously to play vibraphone. So yeah, there was a lot of them. I can't even think of one right now. You can do ego poses, Garudasana. You can do low lunge half split to stretch your hamstrings and your hip flexor. That this is a pair. You can do even, let me see. Oh, even just standing up. If you just tilt your posterior tailbone, you tuck your tailbone to flatten your back instead of having a curve.
Yeah.
That one helped a lot with just a lot of back pain in playing. And we use that cue so much in many things, in crow pose, in arm balances, in pinch a scorpion, in anything that requires a straight back.
Because
So
always you play stand up.
yeah, always standing up. So, you
Yeah.
want to have a strengthened base so you can be loose here. We need to be loose here, but you cannot be loose here if this is compromised or there's a lot of stress
The
here.
arms and the
Yeah,
hands.
so you want to have a really strengthened core. Core is not here. A lot of people think like core means abs. It's not. Core is people who have defined abs sometimes have no core power. It's wild. It's about what's inside here, core, hip flexor, your legs, your glutes, and your legs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pues apúntenlas todas porque it's necessary. Tenemos algunas preguntas. Bernardo Muñoz Garrido nos dice, what do you think about six mallet technique?
I think six mallet techniques has its limitation. It's not my particular research, but shout out to a couple of my colleagues who are really into developing six mallet technique. One of her name is Mei Xuan Chu. She go by Shani Chu, CXU. She lives in Michigan. She's from Taiwan, and she's also presenting this PASIC for her six mallet and saxophone duo. I think there's some limitation, but a lot of people have developed so many different devices that you can actually do a lot of independence to it. And one of the key speaker of that is an older percussionist. Her name also from Taiwan, from Ju Percussion Group, very famous. Her name is Pei Ching Wu. She wrote a book and it was just published, I think, this year in Chinese and also in English. So that's what my personal thought is. It's not, I know enough to execute sometimes if I do need it, but I think it's still a long way to go to compete with, let's say, four mallet technique, because there's limitation for how you hold the mallets in hand, but it's moving.
También nos comparte, what do you think about 4 octaves vibraphones?
I think it's great. I think it's enabling us to play a lot of different transcriptions. I play a lot of guitar transcription when I was in school. Hector Villalobos, Takamitsu's guitar song, and the guitar string goes to a low E, which is one note more than the F of the vibraphone. The problem with 4-octave vibraphones, and one of the reasons why you don't really see a lot of manufacturer making that, is it's because it's a pain to tune them. For the high octave, it's easier to tune them. I have a couple of the notes attached to my vibraphone. For the low one, if you go to the low C, low D, the overtone and the fundamental, it's really hard to get a really pure tone. But there's a big but. Some people are able to do it. Demaro in the US make a gorgeous 4-octave vibraphone. Like my colleague in VPI, Brian Grazer, he has one and I play on it. It's like pure sound. I think it's a great thing. If you can get your hands on a 4-octave vibraphone, I would suggest to, like, noodle a little bit and like see what it enable you to do. Start with transcription, start with original songs that written for guitar that you like, or like some other pieces that will fit really well on the 4-octave vibraphone.
Okay. También nos preguntan por acá, do you also work with composers when they are rewriting new pieces?
When they are writing new pieces, yeah, I do a lot. Most of my commissions, I would say, is an ongoing back and forth process. In June this year, the New York composer Robert Honstein, he recently was nominated for a Grammy, actually, for one of his documentary short film. We brought him into Hong Kong with a grant, and he's sort of known in the percussion world. So we did a concert of all of his music, and he wrote a new piece for Upstrike. The process, he sent me, manuscript and like ideas, and he will like come back to me and say, "Hey, is this possible to play? I'm gonna just change this one." So it's always a back and forth process. I don't think any of the composer, like I said, I work with a lot of composers that I actually like, and they are really good people, very good vibes. So they would always, it's never like, okay, give me my check and I will send you the piece 1 year later.
I know.
It's not like that. I know some people have experience with other composers, but with mine, they're always like, they always check with me. Sometimes I'm like, I cannot play this. Like,
time is gold.
yeah, like Ken Ueno, a Japanese American composer. He is the professor of composition in UC Berkeley. He wrote a piece for me. It's a concert length piece called New Model Asian. We examine what it means to be an Asian in, a new Asian in the country, right? And we did it in Portugal in the beginning of September, and I'm like, dude, I can't play this. I really can't play this. I can't physically play this, and I can play a lot of things. And then he actually simplified it for me. He was just like, "What do you need? Tell me." And I said, "Oh, if you break this down here, or if I can improvise on this idea, here's what you wrote, and hear what it sounds when I improvise. What do you think?" He's like, "I can't tell the difference." I'm like, "Got it." That's is why the composer is different than a performer. We are digesting on the notes and we are making the music, which is intangible. You cannot touch the music, right?
Totally.
So yeah, always work with my composer.
Thank you. ¿Hay algunas más? That's it. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you
for
so
this
much.
interview. Really, we are going to see you on Wednesday.
Yeah,
Wednesday 5th.
definitely. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm gonna talk about the behind process of identity. So it's not gonna be like a full run of the show, because I'm essentially presenting to percussionists.
Yeah.
So they want to know about like the secrets.
Enjoy Mexico.
The
food, the conchas.
I already had two pan de muertos.
Okay. And what is it?
Oh, it's delicious. I like pan dulce, so I'm gonna keep eating pan dulce. Yeah.
Pues si quieren coincidir con él, ya saben, Matthew Lau está en México. Thank you, Dr. Matthew.
Thank you.
Lau.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias a Marciano Moreno, que estuvo con nosotros en nombre del Percussive Arts Society, capítulo México. Gracias también a David Cortés. Yo soy Alejandra García. Que tengan excelente domingo y permanezcan conectados con la buena música y con la enseñanza, sobre todo. Hasta pronto.
Chao.
Vamos a agradecer a Alejandra y a Matthew por su participación el día de hoy. Y bueno, por supuesto que a todos quienes nos acompañaron aquí en la sesión, me gustaría destacar a Bernardo Muñoz Garrido, quien estuvo activo con sus preguntas, y a todas las personas que también van a estar viendo esta transmisión más adelante. Como ya fue mencionado, pues los invitamos a participar con las actividades que Matthew va a tener en Ciudad de México y en otros lugares. Su programa educativo de Boston muy, muy interesante. Y por supuesto, también tenemos algunas actividades que estaremos anunciando pronto En Capítulo México tenemos una actividad de batería donde va a estar relacionada la composición con la interpretación con el maestro Adriano Lopeza. Y el doctor Brian Grazer, que también es muy buen amigo de Matthew, va a estar impartiendo una sesión en línea sobre dampening, técnicas de dampening para el vibráfono. Entonces, los invitamos a estar atentos de estas convocatorias que estaremos haciendo en días próximos en el capítulo. Y con esto cerramos la grabación y esta transmisión. Muchas gracias y que tengan muy feliz domingo.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego, chao.
Bye.
Gracias.